Summer of 1937. The USSR stands on the brink of a massive military modernization, but inside the Kremlin walls, anxiety is growing. Joseph Stalin is convinced there are more conspirators than it seems. Distrust turns into paranoia, and paranoia turns into deadly orders. On the night that will go down in history as the Night of Terror, 8 of the highest-ranking military commanders of the Soviet Union will be executed. It will become a turning point in the fate of the army, the country, and the world that will soon plunge into the flames of the Second World War. Today, we will tell the story of who these generals were, what they were accused of, what the real reasons behind their execution were, and how it changed history. The 1930s were an era of rapid growth, industrialization, and rising internal tension. The Great Terror was only gaining momentum. Troikas operated across the country, arrests followed quotas, and fear became a tool of governance. Externally, the USSR was preparing for a major war. Internally, it was facing one of its own. The Red Army was growing rapidly. The General Staff was creating new doctrines of warfare. Massive military exercises were being conducted, but all this only increased Stalin's suspicion. He believed the army was too independent and therefore could become a threat.
In early 1937, the NKVD received information about the existence of a military conspiracy. Suspicion fell on the top levels of the army. Testimonies were extracted under pressure, yet the leadership accepted them as truth. Arrests of corps commanders, staff officers, and specialists began. By summer, the investigation reached the names of 8 key figures on whom the development of all Soviet military science depended. These men were experienced commanders, veterans of the Civil War, lecturers at the Frunze Academy, authors of new military regulations, reformers, but now enemies of the people.
Yeronim Uborevich was one of the most talented strategists of the Red Army, chairman of the Military Council of the Belarusian District, supporter of mechanization, initiator of tank exercises. He saw the future of warfare differently. That made him invaluable and dangerous in the eyes of a suspicious leadership.
August Kork, hero of the Civil War, participant in the battles near Tsaritsyn, graduate of the Imperial General Staff Academy. His experience was something many modern commanders lacked. He trained young officers, wrote textbooks, and reformed the staff system.
Marshal Mikhail Tukhachevsky, the brightest figure among the repressed commanders, a man often called the Red Napoleon, creator of the deep operation theory, advocate of large-scale use of machinery, aviation, and radio communication. He became the symbol of the new army, and at the same time, its most famous victim. Vitaly Primakov, a cavalryman, brilliant commander of mobile units. During the Civil War, he became famous for rapid raids and maneuvers studied in military schools. After the war, he worked in intelligence, spoke several languages, and had wide international contacts.
General Robert Eidemann, military theorist, lecturer, a man of rare erudition. He wrote books on tactics, developed operational schemes, and conducted scientific research. He was not a politician, and that made him vulnerable.
Ivan Feldman, commander of mechanized units, innovator, supporter of motorization. His units participated in large-scale exercises that later formed the basis for the development of Soviet armored forces. Boris Berzin, intelligence officer, liaison, a man who spent many years working abroad. He understood European politics from the inside. His experience was invaluable, but it was precisely his foreign contacts that sparked suspicion. Vyacheslav Shaposhnikov, staff officer, analyst, author of works on command structure. He belonged to the circle of officers who created the management system of a large army. His accusations became part of the Tukhachevsky case.
The accusations were based on confessions extracted under pressure. The essence was simple. A group of high-ranking officers was supposedly preparing a conspiracy to overthrow Soviet power. The investigation was brief. It followed a pre-written scenario. The closed trial took place on June 11, 1937. It lasted only a few hours. The verdict, execution. During the night of June 11-12, without publicity, the sentence was carried out. The exact location remained classified for decades. Documents were destroyed, names erased. Thus ended one of the most tragic nights in the history of the Soviet Army. A night when talent, experience, and intellect were declared a threat. The 1937 to 1938 repressions decapitated the Red Army. Of 5 marshals, 3 were eliminated. Of 57 corps commanders, 50 were arrested. Of 474 generals, nearly half. The officer corps was destroyed. When the war began on June 22, 1941, the country had to start almost from scratch. Mistakes, failures, and catastrophes of the first months were consequences of lost experience. But despite the heavy losses, young commanders grew during the war, and the Red Army managed to turn its tide. However, the price was enormous. After Stalin's death, a review of the cases began. By the mid-1950s, all 8 generals were fully rehabilitated. Commissions acknowledged the evidence had been fabricated, the trial unlawful. History restored justice, but it could not bring back the lives lost to an era afraid of its own future. The Night of Terror became a symbol of how fear can destroy the best a state has. These 8 generals are more than names in textbooks. They were people who wanted to build a new army and a new country. Today, we remember them not as enemies of the people, but as victims of a time that feared its own future.